Sunrise on a Saturday, I'm headed out to the lake, just my buddy and me. Got my boat hooked up to my Chevy truck. I'm running high on luck, I ain't ever coming down. Time to back the boat down the ramp again. Do everything we can to come back in with a winning sag. That's a life of a fisherman you wouldn't understand. Something you can't feel on dry land. You gotta get your arms way up in a cast and set the hook on a smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. You gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Loom that's trying to bet you like what you feel. Step on a deck and give it a whirl.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of On Another Line Live. My name is Tyler Waller. Tonight we're going to be joined by Drew Sadler of Shimano. We're going to be talking about all things Shimano. We're going to talk about some new G-Loomis stuff, new Shimano stuff. One of my favorite products out on the market right now from Shimano is definitely the Shimano and Jackal Poison Adrena. We're going to get Drew's idea about those things. If you guys have any comments out there, definitely drop them in either YouTube or Facebook, however you're seeing this, and we will get you everybody here questions, answers as well as we can. Again, we got one of the dudes that is the Shimano rep and G-Loomis rep for all those brands, obviously. But at the tackle box, I saw new Drew. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Let's see here. Hey, Drew, can you hear me, buddy? Oh, I just we'll get him back in just a sec. So, guys, I got a couple people here. Go ahead and share these things out. Get as many people in here as we can. I got a couple people here. Go ahead and share these things out. We'll get Drew back on here, but again, I'm going to get on here and share the live video. I'd appreciate it if you guys would do the same. Everything's good. All right, let's see. All right, Drew, can you hear me, man?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Not.
All right, hang on.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, okay, no, good. Well, good. Yeah. All right, so guys, again, I'm going to introduce Drew here. Let Drew obviously introduce himself, but he's the man with Shimano, G-Loomis, Jackal, Power Pro. If you got a question about that, he's going to be the guy to answer. The dude's a stick, catches a ton of fish too. So we're going to talk about some spring bass fishing techniques and a few things there, get his opinion, and talk about some new baits as well. So, Drew, if you don't care, go ahead and give everybody a little bit of a spiel about who you are.
Yeah, anyways, as Tyler said, my name is Drew Sadler. I live here in Richmond, Kentucky. I've lived here for 34 years, some now. Anyways, worked for Shimano, G-Loomis, Jackal, and Power Pro. Have worked for them for the past 7-8 years, and beyond that, I kind of started with them as pro staff. A long time ago. Started out the college fishing thing. Me and a couple of guys started the EKU, Eastern Kentucky University bass fishing team. Kind of got started as pro staff back then, and honestly, that is kind of what transitioned that into what is my job now. So I have no complaints, man. These are the brands that I grew up using. It's literally what I started with. When I was a kid, I would buy the brands, and I stuck with Shimano just because, hey, the reels lasted, the rods were lighter, they were more sensitive. But to have my job and to get to realize some of the information, the technology behind what makes those things happen, I can't complain, man. I feel pretty fortunate. Like I said, I'd have a difficult time selling any other brand. So feel pretty good.
That's awesome. So yeah, I mentioned there a second ago, I don't know if you heard me while we were getting disconnected there, but one of my favorite products right now that's on the market as far as Shimano and G-Loomis, obviously Loomis has all kind of cool stuff, but it goes without saying that the Conquest line of things is, the top dog, in my opinion, in the industry. But they've been out for a while. There was I guess you can call it a Gen 1 of the Poison Adrena. And then they just come out with, and you showed me the other day, I didn't even know that the JDM models, which is the only ones you can get, the Gen 1s, the handle come off from them. But the new G2 or the Poison Adrena series he's got, those are my favorite rods on the planet right now, man. So what makes those things so awesome?
Well, here's the cool thing. So this was some technology that was introduced a couple years ago. It may be new technology to some folks. It may be something that a lot of people don't understand. But I'm going to show. I just grabbed kind of a smorgasbord stuff here. But this started several years ago with our Zodius rods, and hopefully the camera can pick that up. I know the quality can go back and forth, but you'll see this wrapping that's on the blank right here. Okay, so that's where a lot of this technology started. And that wrapping, what it is, it's carbon tape that's wrapped at a 45-degree angle from butt to tip. And when I say from butt to tip, that's a very important part of this. So what's featured on the Zodius and the X rod, that is our high power X technology. Okay, so that is let's call it exoskeleton. Let's call it a bulletproof vest. Now, when you move into the Poison Adrena, which even the original version, what you get with that is that's not only a wrap of that material on the exterior of the blank, that's also a wrap on the interior of the blank also. So when you think about that in a way of that is part of the fundamental base of the rod. That is the skeleton. So when you get to the Poison Adrena, that is called Spiral X technology. Again, you greatly reduce blank materials. So you have a lighter rod, and it's actually a stronger rod because you do two things. When you do that, you think about this in the fashion of if you were to wrap electrical tape around your finger, it's going to change the way it bends and flexes. So with both those technologies, and more specifically the Spiral X, which is in the Poison Adrena, you do two things. Number one, you reduce blank twist. And we've talked about this. You've explained this to a lot of people also. Whenever you go to make a cast of the rod, if I load this rod up, what's going to happen is that blank will twist and it will untwist when you make that cast, when you load and unload. So it reduces blank twist. So you have a lot more energy in the direction of the cast you're trying to make. And secondly, you increase the strength of the blank also because you're improving compression strength. There's videos on this. I mean, I can show you physical evidence, but again, something I've explained a lot of times to you, every rod is a straw, right? It's a long tube and it's round. Once you bend a straw so far, it goes from being a circle to an oval and it collapses. So it improves the compression strength of the rod. So you have a rod that has less materials in it that's physically stronger. So again, lighter rod that's actually stronger because of the blank construction technology. Long answer to a simple question, but that's what it is.
Yeah, Casey Kelly here is blowing you up. I don't know. I'm sure you can see his comment on the screen. Then he says you're trying to ignore me and be Captain Serious. Yeah, so I got Ryan Collins on too. What's up, guys? So I tell you what, though, like I said, one of my first initial thoughts of the Poison Adrena one is that it looks really cool because again, it doesn't look anything like the Spiral X wrap on the rest of the Shimano rods as far as the Zodius X Pride, but I like so I didn't know if I was going to like the carbon handle. I thought it would be cold or, it hurt your ribs when you set the hook. But that is not the case. I'm finding out. I own 3 of the Poison Adrenas. I have the 7.2 heavy, the 7.3 medium heavy, and the 6.11 medium plus. That medium plus, guys, is not to be overlooked. It is. I've been throwing a jackhammer and chatterbait on it. Thing, it is a phenomenal chatterbait rod. So
yeah. So what you're talking about, I mean, so again, we're getting like deep and technical here, right? So when you talk about fishing rods, you can make the grip out of several different materials. You can make it out of foam, you can make it out of cork, which the cork can depend on low quality cork, high quality cork. Low quality cork is going to have a lot of fillers in it, so it's not very dense, it's not very sensitive. You go to foam again, it's going to dampen a lot of that sensitivity. When you go to the Poison Adrena, which is that's actually a carbon material, so it's like you have your hand wrapped around the rod blank itself. There's nothing to dampen any of that sensitivity or any transmission of energy, and it's a more sensitive grip. I mean, it just really is, and that's like, it sounds crazy, but until you fish with one, like you were telling me about, like you don't understand it until you're like, oh wow, I'm getting all that sensitivity right there in my palm, versus before we relied so much on that exposed blank section right there. So I mean, they did a phenomenal job with these rods, man. I love mine. Ryan can be all silly. He's got one now. He knows what it is.
Yeah. So I tell you what, though, I got that the 611 medium plus paired with the CI4 Crown Arc. Holy crap, dude! Like it's like there's nothing even there.
No, it's like I said,
So here's a question for you, Drew.
Yeah.
Misty wants to know what's your favorite rod and why. I know that's kind of like asking you which what's your favorite music, but if you were not to leave home without one rod combo, what would it
be? I can't, like right now I can't pick one. Right now, the NRX 893 has by far, bar none, been my favorite rod for the past 3 years. You can do so many different things with that rod. But man, right now I'm going to toss it up between the NRX 893 and the Poison Dream, the 7.3 medium heavy, which I have here in my hand now, which I can't seem to find out where the camera's at. Again, it's a versatile rod. You can do a lot of different stuff with the rod. So again, you can go to the lake, and if you want to throw something small, throw something big. That versatility lends into you being able to do so many different things with one or two rods. So yeah.
Ryan says, not the music question again. Yeah, so I get it, man. Like I said, I get it though. So that's the thing. Me, I done a YouTube video that'll be premiering this Saturday about being a co-angler and packing gear. And if you're fishing out of your boat all the time, it's easy because if you have 50 rods, you can take 50 rods with you. But if you're not, if you're not doing that, and me, I fish co-angler on the series like BFLs and the Costas and stuff, which are not called Costas anymore, but because for the simple fact is that I'm a high school teacher, and when all the big like money championship deals are always in like September, October when I'm back in school. So one, I don't want to handcuff myself, not having put enough time, but I also don't want to handcuff somebody who's worked really hard on the co-angler side of things to get to where they're at, and me not put enough time into the boater side of things to find it. It's not about me having the confidence to do it. I do have the confidence to catch fish, and I do think I can compete on the boater side, but it's all about having the time because of the thing there. So, I've done that video that will be premiered here in a day or so that, I pack anywhere from 8 to 10 rods with me at a time. And all three of my Poison Adrenas are in my rod mule when I leave for sure.
Well, just like the 611, like I've got it right here. I've got a jerk bait tied on it. I've also thrown a buzz bait on this rod, like a buzz bait with a buzz toad on it. Man, I've thrown a small jig on it. Like again, versatile. It can do a lot of different stuff. Unlike Ryan Collins, he's very one-sided, one-minded. Yeah, he's stuck in one place.
No, Jared's on here. He said, "What a goober! Who is this joker?"
Back at you there, buddy.
So Corey Weaver from JV's Fish Stall says, "Best deep water jig rod. All I care about is jig fishing."
894 NRX all day. If you're looking to throw a 3/4 ounce football jig, there's nothing can touch an 894 NRX. Especially when you're talking deep water, because you're talking deep water, you're talking making a long cast, whether it's long in distance or you're going deep. And that 894 to have the power to penetrate a hook on a long cast, that's very important. Now, one thing I'll say that I started experimenting with, and Jared's been with me when I've done this. One thing I started experimenting with the past couple of years, specifically speaking about deep water jigging, is going from straight fluorocarbon to going to a braid to fluorocarbon leader. And dead serious, it's a more high maintenance setup because you're going to retie that leader because you're fishing deep, you're dragging rocks. You're going to retie that leader, but that deep water hook set goes from being a 6 to 7 foot sweep to a 12-inch sweep. And just that reduction of stretch from that braid to fluorocarbon leader, man, it's really impressive. I've started doing a lot more. I want to do a lot more. And like I said, it just at the end of a very, very long cast, you can set the hook 12 inches and you can nail them each and every single time. But again, like I said, you are going to have more high maintenance because you're going to retie versus dragging over rocks. But it's an impressive setup. But now if you go to that, we're talking something else. You go to a braided fluorocarbon leader, you're going to go back. You need a little bit softer rod to compensate for having zero stretch. So 893, when I say 893, 7.5 medium heavy or 7.5 heavy in our X rod. Absolutely the best, whichever way you choose to go.
Nice answer there, Corey. So there you go. And Ryan Collins says, serious question. Please explain why some Power Pro is good to punch with and others are not. For example, breaking off a big one in a mat in Florida.
Ryan learned this firsthand a couple months ago. So Ryan and I, we took a trip to Florida, and we took a trip down in the Fellsmere area. And we were punching hyacinth mats. And Ryan was fishing what we'll call an 8-strand braided line. So your 8 strands are your very slick or smooth braids. Your 4 strands are your coarser, rougher braids. When you go to those slicker braids, they can be less abrasion resistant. This is what Ryan chose. And Ryan flipped into a mat with an ounce or ounce and a half sinker, set the hook, and the poor little guy, I feel bad for him. He set the hook and came backwards, and the bass was stronger than he was, and he didn't realize this, and it bent him over because he was looking at the water. He couldn't see the fish. I saw the fish swim out from underneath the mat because it was stronger than him, and just shake it. It was an 8 to 10 pound fish. Broke his line. Probably didn't choose the right knot for a slicker braid either. So he got to learn that question that's the hard way. So feel bad for the little guy.
Yeah, I've looked at a lot of different, me, I'm a technical guy. Obviously, I'm a technology teacher, and I look at all the technology side of things. And I can't remember who it was, Zona or somebody that I was following along with, that had a really good explanation of a 4-carrier braid versus an 8-carrier braid. And you think about a 4-carrier braid as being like a mud tire. It'll get you there. It's not going to ride as smooth, but it can get you through all the thick stuff and everything else. Whereas an 8-carrier braid is more like a highway tire, where you have it's not going to be as pliable. It's not going to be as like durable as far as things, but it's going to be a lot smoother and feel a lot better in your ride.
Well, and so that's one change that's made, and hopefully, I don't know, the camera can see this. The new Power Pro Super Slick V2. So again, the Super Slick is an 8-strand carrier. It's a smoother, slicker braid. The new V2 was changed to a formula that's nearly as abrasion resistance as the 4-strand regular Power Pro. Now, again, this is a lot slicker line, and the way I compensate for this, the way I bulletproof myself, after I tie my knot or my leader, say I'm tying from braid to fluorocarbon, whatever, after I tie my leader, I'll tie a couple hitch knots in that braid just to ensure, again, my bulletproof vest, those couple hitch knots will ensure that slick line is not going to burn through the knot or anything like that. So again, if you're using a slicker braid, you don't necessarily need to, but again, it's just insurance. Tie yourself a couple hitch knots after you're done with your knot. That's going to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I get it. So the Super Slick V2, did they do away with high vis yellow in Power Pro?
They did away with the high vis yellow. This is what I was playing with. This is the new moonshine color. So It's obviously very bright, and this is only a 10-pound test, which is 2-pound diameter. So you can see how well you can see that. So high vis yellow is gone. This is what I've gone to on all my spinning rods. Just because on a spinning setup, I like to use a lighter braid. I like to use 10, 20 pound. If you're using green, you just straight up can't see a green braid on green water. So again, I'm always tying the leader on my spinning setups, but you got that moonshine. Also glows under a black light. So if you fish at night, that's definitely what you want to use. But that's what I've gone to, and that's why I went ahead and bought myself a 1,500-yard spool. So it's
I'm jealous of that 1,500-yard spool there. I'm not made it to that far yet. I'm like the 330-yard spool guy.
I may have a couple sample spools I can help you out with there.
So I do have. There you go. So here's a 300-yard spool of. This is a sample spool of Power Pro that I still have left. I don't know if you guys follow my channel or not, but 2 years ago, my students and I 3D printed a prosthetic hand, and Power Pro actually sponsored the build and sent some Power Pro, and it worked out amazing. But this is V2. I tell you what, though, I can't get away from the Onyx Black. Is a really nice color in that too. But yeah, I was looking the other day. I think Kyle and I were talking about it, and he said that he was going to order some from Clay, and Clay said that they'd done away with it. Yeah, Casey said he does like moonshine. I don't know if that's for personal consumption or the moonshine collar, one or the other. It's up to him.
Well, I've got a question. I know there's obviously a lot of people that ask questions to who you're speaking with. I've got a question out there, and I don't have it in front of me, or I'll grab it and show it off. But whoever answers this question the best, I'm going to send them, or I'll send it to you, and you can send them a free sample spool of Power Pro Super Slick V2. And here's my question: you're in the boat fishing, you have a flip-flop blowout. You don't have an extra pair of flip-flops in the boat. What's your best way to improvise or gain control of that situation again once you've had that flip-flop blowout? So we don't have to answer that right now. We can let that sit. We can look at the answers later. But that's a question I'm going to pose to the folks that are watching this.
Yep. So if you guys didn't hear that, he's looking. His question to you is: you're fishing or on a boat and you blow out a flip-flop. How are you going to remedy that situation? Best answer. We might give some Power Pro a sample roll too. So throw your questions there in the bottom in the so I'll be thinking about it too, because here's the funny thing about it is I was actually fishing in Lake St. Clair 2 years ago. Very first day, get there, 3 or 4 footers out there, and some Columbia flip flops, and about the third 3-4 footer come, and I tried to step on the trolling motor, and next thing I know, there was, rest in peace flip flop. So I was there. So,
or especially let's say that's your driving it's not comfortable without, especially if you're in big waves, without a flip flop. So I don't want to hear that, oh, well, you just take your other one off. No, we got to hear how to improvise, improve the situation. What happens if you blow out a flip flop to bring things back, to get the wheel back balanced.
Yeah, Micah Hobensack has a question here. It says, when you fellas have break off with braid, does your line not break first or the leader not? So in my opinion, I'll go ahead and start there. So up until this point, and I'm gonna knock on wood here, but I've never broken Power Pro braid in my life. Like, I've never done it. First off, I don't flip and pitch around a lot of crazy stuff like that where I'm pitching braid. I usually am pitching with like 15, 16 pound fluorocarbon. If I'm pitching braid around that stuff, then sure, you're going to have an opportunity to break. But I find on all Power Pro, my leader always breaks, and it always breaks right below the knot. It's not like so I tie a Unity knot. I've never had the knot break within the knot or above the knot as far as into the braid. Mine always breaks like within a 16th of an inch of where the knot ties. And that could be, in my opinion, I could be not getting it wet enough, and it could be burning the fluorocarbon, but I don't know. So, Drew, what's your answer to that?
I've honestly, I've only broken braid once in my life, and that was I was fishing a topwater Lake Cumberland, and this was there was actually the previous Power Pro Super Slick, which I said was a little bit less abrasion resistant. So again, it was a super slick, so it's a nice, slick, smooth line. You get better casting distance because of less vibration. I still in top water, had a fish getting hung up in a tree or something. He was basically just seesawing on the line on the tree. It did break. But that's the good thing with the new Power Pro Super Slick V2. You do now have that 8-strand carrier braid that has the same or near abrasion resistance as a 4-strand. So, I mean, that gives you the confidence you can now go to that slicker braid where you couldn't in the past for that high abrasion type setup, flipping, pitching, punching, frogging. You can now do that where you couldn't in the past.
Yep. So we're getting now. Wait. So Casey, let me know if you didn't hear that question again. But the question is, if you guys are just now joining us, Drew threw out a little bit of a challenge there. He wants to know, if you blow out a flip flop, how do you remedy that situation? How do you come back from that? How do you either fix it, whatever? We want to know how you're going to overcome that situation. Corey Weaver says, you can only use one bait caster reel for all rods. What is it? And I'm going to go right now. It's going to be a Metanium DC. I already know what he's going to say. That or the new Core Solid Metanium, one of the two.
If you're going to talk about everything, I'm going to go with the SLX DC or the SLX XT. And when you talk about everything, again, you go back to being versatile. That's one thing that DC does that not other reels will allow you to do, is to go between the extremes. And those extremes, I mean, very light bait, very heavy bait. There's certain reels, such as the new Metanium, that's great for very light baits because it has MGL3 spool that allows that. But that SLX DC is going to give you, again, the ability to go back and forth between light and heavy, strong wind, no wind, light wind. That's where I'm going to go with that question. Again, the SLX DC, you're talking about $189. Pretty affordable reel. And again, you can do anything and everything with that reel. So that's where I'm going for sure.
Yeah, so that's the deal. So I just picked up the Core Solid Metanium there, and obviously it's a super high-end reel, but like, I don't know how it gets any better being a non-DC reel other than that thing. That thing is sweet. But the SLX DC, like I said, I was one of the few people to get my hands on the SLX DC, XLX XT, and the Stratic FL that just come out. And if you guys are not familiar with the Stratic FL, it's a spinning reel that has the internal gearing of the Stella, which is a $700 reel. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, the FL is what, $249 or $239?
No, the FL is $199. So you got the CI4.
Yeah, the CI4 $229,
which is $229. Yep. But yeah, just in case I don't know why I got it out, but yeah, if you want to see a Stella, there's the precious right there.
Yeah, I know why you got it out. We all know why you got it out. So Donnie Evans, here's the first answer here. He says, I usually have a cooler of buns and lunch meat, so my answer would be the plastic square bread tie that closes the buns. But if not, use a separator for my tackle box tray to make one.
That's a pretty good answer. I'm gonna have to give him credit. That's a pretty logical and thoughtful answer. I mean, that's the first one. Might get more creative for here, but I like it.
Yeah. Jared Caesar says, I've seen Drew snap off a depths 175 braid to fluoro.
I'm not sure how comfortable that would be for down to the wire. once you get down to the wire, that might hurt, but anyways, it's going to get you through the day. I like it. Wrap it around with some electrical tape. Then you're really talking.
Yeah. So Jared Caesar says, I've seen Drew snap off a depths 175, Braid DeFloro in his defense of 100 yards.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a bad thing. Jared was like, hey, I've got a big giant magnet. I'll go back and get it for you. Well, let's see. That was like 6 months ago, and I still don't have it back, so I've lost my faith. Yeah, I'm not getting it back. I'm not getting my hopes up there.
That's funny. So
that was due to laziness. The bad thing is I've honestly broke it off. String is paused. Okay. Both of them were due to my personal laziness from throwing either straight braid or braid to leader on a big bait. If you're throwing a big bait, and I've got one out just to show, if you're throwing a big bait, it's upside down. I apologize. Do yourself a favor. Make sure you don't just buy a rod that will get you by, line that will get you by. Buy the right setup, the right line, so you don't make that idiot mistake that I've made twice now and lost 2 really expensive baits. If you're throwing a big bait like this, go ahead and get some big monofilament, 25, 30 pound. And monofilament is cheap and it's forgiving. And that's the whole thing behind that. I was lazy. It was my fault I lost those baits. So again, if you're throwing a big bait, do yourself the due diligence to take the time and set it up the right way.
Jared says he hasn't been back, but he'll get it. So Casey Kelly says big nail weight through both sides of the thong part of the flip-flop.
That's a good one too. That's pretty good. That's pretty thoughtful. I like it. Okay.
We're getting there. Yeah, so if you guys are just now joining us, we're trying to figure out what your remedy would be if you blew out a flip-flop while fishing. What would you be? What would you do to remedy that situation? Jared says, yeah, he's correct. Mono's the only way to go. So if I were to say, hey, I want to throw a big swim bait, well, big for me is like a 6-inch mag draft or something. What about the NRX UBR? Or I know they make big swim bait rods, but will the UBR handle that stuff?
The UBR would do good for soft baits. The UBR is not going to be the best choice for, and I got a couple things out just because I didn't know if we were talking about them. So this is a 7-inch bass tricks, obviously a soft swim bait. This is the type of bait you can use a stiff or extra fast rod on because you got that one big single hook, that you have to penetrate through the fish's mouth. Stiff rod is fine with that. You got a single hook. Now, when you move or transition to your treble hook baits, I'm going to turn this around so it's not upside down. When you transition to these, this is not the type of bait that you want a stiff rod for, such as an NRX. Most of the NRX rods are your extra fast tapers. For treble bait rods, that's when you want to step down into the IMX Pro reaction rods, where you have those rods that were designed specifically for big swim baits and big treble hook swim baits just like this one. So it really depends. Again, those soft swim baits with a single hook, you can go that stiff rod.
Dude, is that a Canaan on there?
Yeah, that's an old Canaan. What about that? Huh?
Yeah,
about that? You talk about a smorgasbord in the boat. Yeah, we got it.
They got $800 reels and $59 reels.
Yeah, true. But yeah, that's really good.
So Adam Gilmore says just fish barefoot, which all right.
I can't do it. I tried. I can't. I step on hooks. I step on random stuff. My kids leave toys in the boat. I'm looking at a little Tonka truck over here. I can't do that. That's why we're looking for rim.
Chase Sansom says put that down. I'm sure he's talking about that king shad there you're throwing. Crazy stuff. So I just picked up actually on your recommendation the 847 IMX Pro CBR crankbait rod for topwater. What's your thoughts process? I guess so. Here's why I think that you chose a crankbait rod. I guess for the parabolic bend, so you don't rip the hook out of the fish's mouth when they eat it. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, same thing with topwater, and that same thing with topwater. You're fishing again a treble hook bait. You want that whole rod to have flex, not just the tip. So when you're fighting the fish, the rod basically just follows the fish when it's shaking its head, or when it jumps, the rod is just following its head shakes. So the 847 is a crankbait rod. It's a stiffer crankbait rod. It's made for like a 6XD, but for I don't have anything out. For a repo man or something like that, something that size, a half ounce or a larger topwater, man, that rod is an absolute sleeper because, again, it's a crankbait rod. We're talking about throwing a topwater on it. It's a fantastic rod, throws a big bait well, and, again, it keeps them pegged. You can use braided line on that rod, and especially, again, you're going to braid, so you're reducing the stretch. But again, that rod is forgiving. It just falls every move the fish makes.
Yep. So I've only been able to throw a few times, and I'm falling in love with it already. So Chase Sansom wants to know if you've been jamming any Slipknot lately.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, my radio goes from George Jones to Slipknot. Might even come up with some 2 Chainz. You never know.
Yeah, but I'm the same way. Like, you listen to some of my stuff on Pandora or on Amazon Music, it'll give you Tourette's, because they're like, how do you go from a bluegrass tune to like Biggie Smalls in like 3 minutes? I was like, just stick around.
Yeah.
You're gonna be around. You're gonna be around some stuff. So
Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about spring fishing. We are in the spring. Everybody, it seems to me, like, has a lot more time to fish, especially those non-essentials like myself. Been out on the water more this past 3 weeks than I have ever. Well, since last year. Obviously, you guys that are following my channel knew the whole deal about my truck. It is, knock on wood, still up and running. But I have been out on the water more than I have been. I have been more on the water in the past 15 days than I was all last summer. And I'm learning a lot of stuff with it. I'm learning right now to fish muddy to murky water. But why? So if you had to go spring fishing, Drew, we're talking about this time of year, no matter what lake it would be, what's your favorite setup? Like, what's your first bait you're going to pick up in a given situation? Let's say before they're bedding. Obviously, if you're bedding, it's going to change the situation. But you're just finding fish. What's something that you got a lot of confidence in?
Man, before, during, and after, I'm gonna go to a swim bait, and I'm not saying a swim bait because you're gonna catch more fish on it, but I'm gonna say a swim bait because it's gonna show you more fish. And even a big bait just like this right here, it may show you a 1.75 pound fish. But my point in saying that is, I'm not saying you have to throw one this size. You can throw a smaller one. It will show you fish because it is going to gain fish to follow the bait. They have a lot of following power. So if you're just trying to find fish, they're very powerful baits for showing you fish. Now, once you fish a couple creeks or a couple pockets and you say, well, man, I had 15 followers in this pocket. Well, that's where you're going to go back and fish. Now, whether you go back and throw a Ned rig, you throw a floating worm. A floating worm is one of my favorites this time of year. And the swim bait is good for just showing you fish.
It's funny you said that, because Ryan Collins says if he says Ned rig, I'm losing it.
Yeah. Well, Ryan and I went. We had a good little day last week. Went to a little lake and found a bunch that were pulled up on. Well, found a bunch that were pulled up on beds and started blind casting the Ned rig. And man, it's just a Ned rig is another good bait. That if you're just going down the bank looking for fish, just blind cast around. You're gonna accidentally catch some fish just by throwing it around. But man, I do like a swim bait just for searching.
Eric Moore says, give me the best 6XD rod, Loomis, Shimano. My opinion for that, and I'll let Drew answer his professional opinion, but my opinion of a 6XD rod, my favorite that I own, is a 906 CBR IMX Pro. The daggone thing is bulletproof. It's got a super long handle, 7.6. It's got, you can actually launch, I think.
Yeah, the 906 is a great rod. However, the 968, the IMX Pro 968C CBR, was literally pause. No, wait a second. Okay, never mind. The 968 was designed around that. It's going to give you a little more distance. The 906 is excellent. 968 is going to give you a little bit more distance on the cast.
So so that's a 8-foot rod there, right? Yep.
Or is it 8 foot?
Let's see. Yeah. Corey Weaver says, jig and cover all depths, swim it to search and cover, and thump them on the nose if they aren't active. I get with that too, man. I'm a big jig fisherman. I think some of the best on the planet come from Greg Drown there at the tackle box. I am going to go talk to him in the next few days. I've had so many people on my channel want to know how they can get their hands on the spinner baits, buzz baits, and jigs that I talk about all the time on the channel. And up until this point right now, Greg doesn't have an online presence, so I'm going to try my best to help him out, even if I have to moderate it, maybe end up being like the middleman there to get it going. You got to try some tackle box jigs. Matter of fact, let's see if Chase or any of you guys, Casey, any of you guys from the tackle box, Corey pointed out the other day, he was looking at the jigs, looking for a place to buy the jigs at the tackle box. And if you go to Facebook on the Tackle Box's Facebook page. When you click on that, there somebody has linked some Asian like restaurant. It's like Tackle Box restaurant or something, and you click on it, it takes you to
crab legs or live crabs or something like that. I saw.
Yeah. Let's see. So Alex Rurik says, "Hey Drew, what's up, Tyler? Drew, talk a little bit about searching for fish in trees with swim baits, at least to see where some big ones."
Yeah, man, trees. That's a good one right there, because again, you talk about a glide bait like this. It doesn't have to be this glide bait. This is a KGB bait. It's a swim bait. It's kind of handmade deal. I've not thrown it. I've heard really good reviews about the new Storm glide bait. But my point in saying the glide bait specifically is those baits are going to ride pretty high in the water column. So when you're talking about wood, when you're throwing a treble hook bait, you don't want a bait that's going to sink real fast to get hung up. Those glide baits are baits that are going to stay high in the water column, going to stay above that wood, give you the availability to, when you say you're cranking it and you get above that laydown, you can completely stop that bait and give any fish that's looking up the time to come out and show himself. So any type of glide bait, whether it's a river to sea, whether it's a KGB, the new Storm glide bait, those are great just because they give you the availability or the ability to let them sit. Or even more so, if you're throwing a swim bait or glide bait or anything and you see a follower, a lot of those baits will have an completely stop your retrieve, give the bait a twitch, and then the bait will completely do a 180 on the fish. And a lot of times get a follower to convert into a striker. So glide baits are absolutely around wood. That's where I'm going all day, every day.
Yeah, I've yet to get into the glide bait deal. Again, I'm just now getting into I don't know what I call big swim baits. They're not big swim baits for you. Obviously, you're throwing 7, 8, 9-inch swim baits, 10-inch, I'm sure. But the 6-inch mag draft is something I'm throwing right now that I feel like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. These big swim baits, they're almost like musky fishing. It's like fish of 1,000 casts. But usually when you hook one, it's going to have some shoulders.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's, I guess, a point I kind of missed. There's a lot of other soft swim baits that don't have any weight in them. They may sink, but they're going to sink really slow. Those are also fantastic around any type of wood, whether it be standing timber, trees, branches, or laydowns. Again, they're not going to sink real fast. That fish that's in the laydown has plenty of time to look up and make a decision if he wants to commit or not.
Yeah, that's cool. So, and like I said, I'm just not getting into it. And, I was talking to a fellow the other day about it, and he was like, I wish I had the confidence to throw big swim baits. It's like, it's not that I have the confidence to do it. It's like, because I'm 36 years old and I've never caught a fish over 8 pounds. So it's not the way I'm fishing now doesn't do it. So, you got to change your odds somehow. Like I said, you throw something like that. And like I said, you may catch a 12-inch fish on it every now and again, very rarely, but usually when something eats it, it's going to have some shoulders to it.
And then I've caught some small fish on big swim baits too. I mean, you'd be surprised how small a fish will eat this is a 7-inch bass tricks. I'll try to turn around so backwards. That's my hand, excuse me. So you can see, that's not a small bait. And man, I've caught all kinds of 14-inchers on that bait. So you'd be surprised what all, you'll catch small ones, not necessarily small ones, but you'll catch a lot of numbers on them too.
So what is that, a 10-aught you got there rigged in that?
Yeah, that's an Owner Beast 10-aught is exactly what it is. Sorry, I can't find the camera, but yeah. that's a 10-aught hook.
And that thing's got some serious wire to it.
Oh, it does, and that's why someone was talking about earlier with that's why you definitely do want a stiffer rod on these a big soft swim bait, because that hook diameter it's got a lot of diameter. You do need a stiff rod to penetrate that hook.
So Corey Weaver asks, what determines when you might fish a swim bait on an underspin versus a straight swim bait head?
I'm not a good person for that question. I have never in my life, I thought I had one laid out. I have never, man, there's a lot of fish that are caught on underspins. I don't throw it just because I've not caught a lot of fish on it. I don't have the confidence in it. Now you talk to a lot of people from Alabama, Georgia, guys that fish the most clear lakes down there for the big spotted bass, the Coosa spots. That's very predominant down there. I'm just a guy that I haven't done it a lot. It's a great technique. It's a great setup. I haven't done it a lot, and I can't give a lot of advice on that, honestly.
Yeah, so I think the swim bait, I think the underspin thing took off when it was won. The Classic was won on it down at where is it? And my mind went blank. Well, Casey Ashley won it down at Hartwell. Yeah, he won that on that underspin that him and his dad was making, and like I know Greg for one up at the tackle box, like, and it's just like the new 110 mega bass jerk baits. Like you can't get that certain collar that Cherry wanted on this year. It's just like if it wasn't televised, you could say, hey, I caught it on a go back old school, like a Dance's eel or a rooster tail, and every one of them on the planet would sell out.
And again, like I said, I don't know a lot about that technique, but if you think about it, a lot of times, a lot of places when that's thrown, it seems to be predominantly a deep water technique. So again, I'm thinking out loud here. I could be completely wrong. It could be something where that's predominantly a deep water technique. Those blades really help out in either a suspended fish or a deep fish looking up and seeing a flash versus just action. That might, again, just thinking about it might be why that has the appeal versus just a swim bait.
Yeah, I get you. You guys were on here we're about 40 minutes. We're going to give it a few more minutes here. We're going to end it about 45 minutes. So if you guys have any questions for Drew, throw them out there right now. I'm sure he's got stuff going on with his family. I don't want to keep him too long. But if you guys are just now joining again, we are on Another Line live. This is really the first episode we've did live for the 2020 fishing season. One, because it's really tough to getting the time to do it because I'm producing more stuff on my YouTube channel. I've threw out some really lofty goals for my YouTube channel for this year. I've really never focused on my YouTube channel as much as I want to. Do I feel like that it would be something that I could do like lucrative wise and quit my job? No, I don't have the time to do that. Would love to be able to do that, but I have a goal to get 5,000 subscribers by the end of the fishing season. So if you guys have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I appreciate if you do that. But Drew, I was going to send you an email the other day. I was looking at the analytics for last year, 1.4 million impressions on my YouTube channel, which is crazy.
Well, that's pretty good. Maybe this will help or this could really hurt you. So since you do this and you play a lot of music, I got a question for you. Let's call it the top number one most awkward playing music in a bar moment that you've experienced so far. Most awkward.
Well, dude, there's a bunch, but one that sticks out on the top of my head is I was playing at a bar. Well, I'm going to give you two examples because they rank high up there on the list. The very first one, we'll go for number two and then number one. Okay. Number two was we were playing in this place in Nova, West Virginia. Had a little, it was like a mom and pop place. They still smoked in there. It was super, super like smoky. Like I probably knocked 2 or 3 years of my life off being in there. But long story short, we're sitting there playing, and this old lady, she's probably not a day over 80, comes up there to the stage. Me and Eddie sitting there playing. There's about 50 people in this bar. They thought we were from Nashville or something, packed this joint. She come up to me and she's like, "Honey?" I was like, "Yes, ma'am." She's like, "Can you play me one of those panty dropping tunes?" So that's number two. But the most awkward time I've ever had in my life is I was at a bar. I'm not going to mention any names, but I was at a bar playing music out of town, and we were in there playing on Friday night. It was absolutely the most fun I've ever had playing in my entire life, anywhere ever. Like they had so much fun. The people were good. We made all kind of tips. Like it was a fun night. Next day, Saturday, rolled in there. They still smoked in there too. On Friday night, they couldn't have set the place on fire and got it any more smoky in there. But Saturday night, long story short, they come in. There was about us and 3 or 4 other people in this joint. I saw a guy. I'm not lying at this. This is true story. The guy rides a bicycle into the bar, pedals it in there, throws out some pills on the table. Guy whips out a couple $100, pays him. He rides his bicycle out of the bar. I was like, yeah. So those are my two most awkward times playing music.
Those are good. I like that. I think you should include that in once an episode. I like that. I enjoyed that. Yeah.
So Ryan Collins says, I'm answering the flip-up question. I'm cutting up the bottom of my dip can, cutting a notch in it, and using it as a barrier. Using it as a barrier, such as the plastic red top.
That's pretty good too. Those are 3 very, very creative responses on how to deal with a flip-flop blowout during the fishing adventure when you had to have a spare pair. So that's good. I like it.
So quick question for you: the Jackal riser bait. How in the heck do you fish that bait?
Man, the best thing you can do on that bait is just go fishing and plan to spend 5-10 minutes in figuring out the retrieve. It's funny. So Ryan was actually, I think he was selection one day and came by the house. I was like, hey, man, I got a new bait I want to play with. And we went to just a lake and fished off the dock. And you just have to figure out the speed of that retrieve. Once you get the speed figured out, you can add in some pops and twitches to make the bait jump, to make the bait do some changes in direction. You just have to figure out the speed. It's not a speed I can sit here and say, it's like this. Go spend 5 or 10 minutes. Once you figure it out, it's got a beautiful action. And you can make it do some cool stuff. But you just have to dial it in to exactly, this is what I know I need to do to make it swim the way it should.
Yeah, so I guess I know that the daggone thing is heavy. You can cast at a country mile. Like that thing will rip.
You can't and they designed it like that. So there's a smaller one, which is there's a 007 and a 009. One is meant to be a size. It's about 2.5 inches long. It's meant to be thrown on a spinning rod. And again, you think about a schooling fish scenario, you will get better distance on the right weight bait with a spinning rod than you will a bait caster. So it was made to be thrown on a spinning rod. The larger size, which I think is about 3.5, it's heavy also, but it was designed to be fished on a bait casting rod. But both give you incredible castability and give you, again, you can do some different stuff, change directions, make it jump out of water. You can do some cool stuff with the baits.
Yeah. So Corey Weaver is talking about the riser bait theory. So what's the best water temperature for that bait? It is a tropical bait, so you're gonna be talking, past springtime, in my opinion. What's your opinion?
Again, for me, it's more of a schooling fish bait. Again, doesn't matter what again, the smaller size for a spinning rod, the larger size for casting, is made to have that weight and castability to give you better distance than some other baits that are going to flop and twirl in the wind. So for me, it's a schooling fish setup. Whether that's in the dead of summer when it gets to be August around here and we have these isolated nomadic schoolers, or whether you go in the fall and get the back of the creek schooling fish, for me, it's a schooling fish bait because of the castability of it.
I get you. Yeah. Like I said, that's one thing that took me off initially is that I threw on braid, obviously, because I thought initially, first off, again, this is my ignorance because I didn't read anything about it. Matter of fact, I think I got it from you. Matter of fact, I know I did. I was down at Cumberland fishing there, and you gave it to me. But it's I just assumed that it was a topwater bait, so I tied it on some braid, which I still throw it on, and I chucked that thing. And I was like, "Holy God, you can cast this thing 150 yards! Like it goes."
Yeah.
I was like, well, definitely, it's not going to float. And I never did good. I just put it down because I couldn't get the retrieve down. But now that you mentioned, I'll have to get it back out.
Yeah, and it's just, it sounds weird, but it's like kind of learn how to drive a boat that chime walks. You just get in that rhythm, you know what it's doing. It's just, You figure that retrieve. Once you get it and you can see it, that's when you can add in those different types of actions to jerk it, pop it, get it jump. It's like I said, it's a cool bait. It is.
I gotcha. Yeah. So another bait that I like, and we'll let you get off here in just a second, is that I'm fishing right now consistently is the Jackal Re-Range 110 in the Matte Pearl. Dude, that thing just absolutely catches them.
It does, and man, one other thing that I've been overly impressed with that bait, I keep looking behind me because I keep a lot of crap on the wall. The thing I've been impressed with the most about that bait is the weight transfer system. So there's a lot of baits out there that have a weight transfer system. It's just a small ball that once you cast it, it goes from the front to the back. What the Re-Range has, it makes it unique. It's got it's a whole cylinder. Instead of just one little BB, it's a cylinder. And when you fire that crankbait, you will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Because the first time you throw it, it will scare the crap out of you.
Yeah, it sounds like a line. Yeah.
So that weight transfer goes from the front to the back, and it'll make a smacking noise, but you'll notice it because the distance you can get with that bait is unbelievable. So not only does that weight transfer system result into distance, also enhances your ability to target fish with it. Again, the more accurate you can be, the better, the more precisely, more efficient you're being with casting. So that weight transfer system not only helps with distance, helps with accuracy, which is really good if you're target fishing also.
Yeah. So before we let you off here, about 50 minutes in, I appreciate you joining us, guys. If you guys are just not joining us, we have Drew Sadler on the line here, on another line, if you will. He is pro with Shimano, Jackal, G Loomis, and Power Pro. But I want to know, I'll go ahead and give you my answer. What's the most overrated bait right now? In my opinion, is a whopper plopper.
That's a hard question. That's a good answer. I understand your answer. I don't disagree with it. I can't say I feel it's overrated because I still, from time to time, find myself on a body of water where I don't think anyone has ever thrown a whopper plopper. A great example, there's a small lake here in town. It's a troll motor only lake that gets beat to death. I was there a year and a half ago, wasn't catching crap throwing a buzz bait, and I thought, well, I'm not catching crap on a buzz bait, might as well not catch crap on a whopper plopper. Tied on, not, I don't know the sizes, the bigger whopper plopper, and I don't think anyone had ever thrown a whopper plopper on that lake because in an hour and a half I got like 30, and they were choking it. So again, it does get fish to death. Man, chatterbait gets fish to death, but it still catches fish. But I don't know. That's a really difficult question. I don't have a good answer for that. Most overfished, overhyped bait.
Yeah. So like I said, I think a plopper. I don't throw it enough. I guess it's just one of those deals. But so guys, just before we get off here, I want to let you guys know that I do have a signature series line of JB's Fish Sauce coming out soon. I'm doing the research and development right now. We just got the very first. Kyle and I were out at Rocky Fork, which the video for that on YouTube just dropped at 6 o'clock tonight. Caught one about 4.5 pounds on it. We're doing some testing right now, but as far as I know, the stuff is working really well. I'm super pleased with it. That'll be available on their website very soon. Not to give you too much of an answer, but the answer will, or the garlic, it's going to be called Pinch O Garlic. And the last question here for Drew before we get off here, TL Bomb Squad says, what's your all thoughts on the dark sleeper? I've been having pretty good luck with them. The eyes fall out quick.
Man, I bought some. I haven't thrown it yet. For me, I think that's going to be more of a wintertime bait for me. And again, I'm talking about fishing Highland reservoirs, Cumberland, Dell Hollow. For me, that's going to be a wintertime bait because I'm going to fish a lot like I would a football jig because it has the ability, again, it's got the hook, which is like in the fin of the back. So for me, I'm going to pick up that half ounce to 3/4 ounce. I'm going to try throwing it like a football jig. Do I think it would be better fished on the Great Lakes, Erie, St. Clair, stuff like that? Yeah, but that's what I bought mine for, and that's what I'm going to use them for. Is I personally see them best being fished on the bottom versus being thrown like a regular swim bait. So I haven't thrown yet. Can't answer that. Every store I work with, every store I've been to that carries them, they can't keep them in stock. It's got to be a good bait for some reason, somehow, some way. But I haven't fished it yet. But that's what I plan on doing with mine.
Yeah, so I bought a couple of them, and I'm opposite of you. I don't plan on throwing them here. I'm not saying that they won't work, but dude, you can't tell me on St. Clair that you couldn't just sack them up on the right situation with that stuff.
Yeah, it's going to look so much more realistic than a tube jig. And again, it's going to be a little more weedless than tube jigs. So when you get to like Erie where you got some more rock, you're going to go through less baits. And so, yeah, everyone I know that's throwing it, they like it. I haven't. That's what I plan to do with it. So I'm looking forward to, I guess, not looking forward to November, December, but that's when I'll throw it here.
Yep. Guys, first off, Drew, I want to thank you for joining us here on Another Line. If you guys just joined us, this is Drew Sadler from Shimano. Guys, the stick knows anything you know about it. If you have a question about, if you have a question about Shimano stuff, definitely hit me up. If I don't know the answer to it, I will get you the answer. And Drew will be the first guy I call or contact. We've got a lot of stuff coming out brand new on YouTube. Again, I have a little bit of a schedule set up now where I'm going to be releasing videos on Tuesdays and Saturdays. So there's already, for the next 3 weeks, I've already got videos queued up. So you'll see 6 videos for the next 3 weeks. So if you don't care to share my content, I appreciate it. Guys, we're going to get off here for a little while. Drew, hope you spend some time with your family. First off, before I get off here, I wanted to ask you, is your wife working right now?
She is doing e-screenings from home. So what she's specifically doing? So, she's a family nurse practitioner. So she was working in a clinic, seeing people with the cold, the flu, whatever. So she is now screening folks that either have or have been exposed to the coronavirus. So I'm thankful, one, that, she still has a job, and two, that she's able to still do that. And, at least try to help folks that, again, that have had it or been exposed to it. So she's doing good. I'm ready for the kids to go back to school. I'm not a teacher. I think teachers should get a raise. In my time at home with my kids, trying to teach them, and I'm speaking for my wife as well, teachers should get a raise. Not everyone can be a teacher. I cannot.
Yeah. So anyway, the reason I asked that is I was going to make sure if she was still in the, obviously she's doing her part from home, which I'm glad of. I was going to say if she need, I told you the other day I'm 3D printing masks for people in the medical field. So if she's home, she's not going to need them. But if she knows anybody down there that she knows that can benefit from a face shield, I'm 3D printing I have I don't know, lack of a better term, a frame that I'm 3D printing and I'm putting plastic on. So if you guys know anybody down there that can be in use of those, let me know and I'll get some your way.
If you could get some made with a Loomis logo on them, let me know. I'll wear them while I'm out and about.
All right, so guys, I appreciate you guys sticking around. Drew, sorry I had you on here for an hour, but I appreciate it. I think it's been a very, very informative session. So guys, we'll see you next time on Another Line. Again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hop on Facebook, whatever you need to do. Go up to the tackle box in South Point, Ohio, and show Greg and Debbie some love up there, because everybody up there, you're never going to find a better tackle store anywhere on the planet if you're around here. And again, in the next few weeks, I'm going to work on them, trying to get with them to try to make an online presence. So we'll see you next time, guys. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Another Line.
Appreciate it. Take care, Tyler.